Hey everyone, and welcome to this special Sound and Scene Q&A with Frank Licari and Helen Murphy, the directors of José Feliciano, Behind This Guitar. I want to welcome them, and thank you again so much for allowing Sound and Scene, at least our Minnesota viewers, to watch this really highly entertaining and informative documentary on José Feliciano.
Thank you, appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
And yeah, I guess I'll just start off. How does it work to make a documentary with two different people involved as co-directors? I guess is sort of the first question I have.
Go ahead. Yeah, you want to ask me? Well, you know, it's interesting, especially with the documentary, because obviously once you get to an editing room, it's very arbitrary in sort of how the story ends up going. It's not like you have a script to go with. So Helen and I are interesting because we really come at things from two different perspectives, which really I think helps. I think if we were too aligned all the time, it probably wouldn't work because we would all sort of be pushing and pulling. But I think what's worked with our partnership has just sort of been, I think of things in one way, she thinks of things in the other way, and we kind of come in and we kind of, you know, commingle the ideas, and we came up with what you see on screen. So, you know, I don't know, but it's worked, so I'm not going to question it.
I think the secret is Frank has a great sense of humor, and when I have silly ideas, he usually giggles a little bit, and then we figure them out.
Okay, and I know, Frank, that there is some involvement with you and Jose, and I wonder if that was sort of the idea originally of wanting to make this documentary on José Feliciano.
You know, it's interesting. Well, Helen and I both were involved with Jose in a different way. I actually was hired almost 10 years ago to work with Jose as his producer, director, and backup singer. And so I did his world tour for about 1.5 to 2 years. And then I actually left the tour. He got a new manager and things got shuffled around. Then Helen actually got involved with Jose and Susan on another way with the book. They were working on a book. And so Helen got involved with them. It was just weird because Helen and I had met through another project completely different than Jose. And when I actually called up Helen to get her involved in another project, and she said, well, I'm back in touch with Jose. Do you want to get back in touch with him? And it was an interesting sort of synergy. But I had told Jose 9 years ago, I said, I need to make a movie on your life. Your life is so interesting. And then Helen comes along and says, hey, I'm working with Jose and Susan on a book. What do you think about making a documentary? And so she actually got me back in touch with Jose, and it sort of worked. So we both had a relationship with him in a different way. And obviously that helps things along.
You know, the thing about Jose, and I hope it comes across in the film, is that anybody who intersects with Jose has a unique bond with him that lasts a lifetime. And you know, he's toured the world for 50 years and met a lot of people, and he always credits all of his success to his fans and you know, his personal relationship with them. So he's a pretty genuine guy.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that definitely does come across in the film, and you can see, you know, how beloved he is. And obviously, yeah, when you have a 50-year career, you rack up a lot of miles touring and working with different producers and engineers and you know, music executives. So yeah, I can only imagine, you know, the relationships that he's built. And I mean, that is something that is important to know in this documentary, because I think when I think of José Feliciano, I think of him as like an unsung hero. And I mean, he's done so much, not only for Latin America and North America, but worldwide and globally. I mean, he's a global artist. And just, you know, how do you present that in a documentary when you've got, you know, 90 minutes, 95 minutes to tell sort of his life story?
I'll start with that. You know, it's interesting when Helen and I talked about, you know, she said it 50 years. You know, when you have an artist, a lot of artists sort of are around for a long time, but they kind of lay dormant. They don't do, you know, you don't hear from them in a while, or they're just not doing anything. Then they come back, his music changes and things like that. He's kind of been a unique in the way that he's kind of gone under the radar for most, other than when he first broke onto the scene. And obviously the controversies that you see at the beginning of the film. After that, he kind of just sails and does his thing. But every decade, right, we say it in the film, he comes up with Grammy nominations, Grammy wins, this. So every decade has something going on. So the way we chose to do the film, which typically I personally don't like to make linear stories. I like to kind of, you know, pick and choose, but we went linear because it makes so much sense here. You really just, you have a trajectory here of 55 years. And like you said, you know, artists hang around for a long time, but a lot of times artists don't have, you know, they fall out or they don't have great reputations, or, you know, the longer you get to know somebody, sometimes it's not as great as you thought it would be. But Jose's sort of kind of managed to keep everybody around and respected. And he has that kind of aura about him because he is kind of not, like you said, he's kind of unsung. And so he hasn't been thrust upon the community in a big way ever, really, other than in '68. So I think it lended itself to just saying, let's see what this guy did decade by decade. And I think that's why we ended up choosing the sort of linear storytelling that we chose. It made it easier for us, I think, to go, look, we have enough in each, as we go along, there's always something to tell about.
Well, I think, Jim, I would, just to add to what Frank has said, I personally felt, and I know Frank did too, because Frank traveled with Jose for 10 years, but I felt a tremendous burden in making sure we tried to represent, you know, Jose's career, 50 years, 90 minutes. It's not easy to do that. And even to go back 50 years. And I think the important thing really is that Jose did so much for our culture, in addition to what he did for music, that capturing that in the film and still staying true to his global music success, and also being honest with the audience about the hurdles and the difficulties he experienced as a Latin artist, you know, and I think some of that comes through, yet he never ever felt burdened or really kept behind by the discrimination that he experienced along the way. And that's what's so inspiring about it. But it was a challenge. You know, it was a challenge. And also we had periods in the 70s and 80s and where unfortunately some of the stars he worked with are no longer with us. So Frank, who's an accomplished producer and an actor, you see him in the film bridging some of those periods in the 70s and 80s. So it's tough covering 50 years.
Right. I mean, I'm just trying to think of any other artist that's been touring, playing music for 50 years. And I can think of maybe the Rolling Stones, maybe Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan. So it's a very...
Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's rare. It's rarefied air. It really is. And you know, originally we were actually our working title for the film, believe it or not, was Icon.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you use those words loosely, but you know, when you think of the business, especially the entertainment business, and Helen will tell you as well, because she's been on the end of it. I've been on this side of it for 30 years. She's been on the other side for 30 years. You know, to last this long in this business and still come out, she uses an interesting phrase. Actually, I can't remember. I'm sure she'll bring it up. It's a great phrase, but it's, you know, you get knifed, you get shot, there's a lot that goes on. And the fact that you're still standing at the end of it and can still have your dignity, you still have your talent, you can still do it. It's pretty amazing, you know, and it really is. You nailed it. It's Paul McCartney. It's Paul Simon's not even touring anymore, but it's the Rolling Stones. There's not a lot of guys left. And, you know, 75 years old. And he started so young. And, you know, what's not to jump, I'm sure you have this question. So I'll let you ask the question, because I was going to jump to something, but I'll see if you cover it. I don't want to.
Well, no, I mean, I guess I'm sort of curious too. I mean, how is it that we've gone this long? And, you know, I imagine you both worked on this film for a couple years at least, but how is it that it's now 2020 and this is the first sort of official Jose Feliciano, you know, portrait of this, tremendous artist, person who advocated for great rights, brilliant songwriter and musician, artist. How is it that it took this long for this film to get made?
I have a thought on that, and I say a little bit of it, I think, in the film, and Helen may agree or may not, but I really truly believe, as an artist, because like I do, work as an artist on one side of my career, if you don't have people around you, and I'm not talking just about family, I'm not really talking about family, I'm talking about your team, right? And Helen can speak to this as well, just being on the executive side of the music business. If you don't have a good team around you who's guiding you, at the end of the day, an artist is an artist is an artist. It's rare that we're business people or we really are the creatives. And if you have a good team around you who is getting you to the places you need to be, namely management, record labels, things like that in the music business, I think it really helps. And, to keep somebody in the spotlight takes work, not only from a creative side, but from a marketing and management side, but also to get that message across to people of the breadth of somebody's, value, for instance. I think a lot of people will say, oh, Feliz Navidad. Oh my gosh, yeah, of course, right? Or they'll remember Light My Fire because they're 50 plus. Or when you don't know somebody's value and worth because it hasn't been shown to you, it's very difficult. So I think a lot of people have kind of, again, you said it first, unsung, but when you really sit down and you look at it, you go, whoa, this is rare. Like, why isn't somebody, and I think I recognized it the first 3 months I was with him. Honestly, I actually have a video vlog that I did where I say it on a vlog. Yeah. Where I went, this is incredible. I mean, I think I was in Spain with him and I was watching the sound check. And I think Helen comes at it from another perspective because she started writing, helping Susan write the book. And when you look at it, you're just, not to reiterate, but comes out of a poor area in Puerto Rico, okay, blind since birth, moves into another poor area in New York without the ability to see, no money, immigrant. It's mind-boggling the amount of excuses you could come up with to not be successful at anything, right? You could just say, wow, I was dealt a bad hand. This guy just, I don't know. I really don't know. He's a marvel. Even to this day, you watch him sometimes and he'll have just incredible moments of brilliance on the guitar or as a singer. And you're just like, this guy's 75. He's really 75. He's road driven, right? Like you getting on the road. It's really remarkable. It's amazing to me that it hadn't been done, and I'm sure Helen can add to that.
I think just to add to what Frank said, when you're a global artist, when you finish touring in the US, out of sight, out of mind. When you leave Europe, out of sight, out of mind. So when I started working closely with Jose a number of years ago, what I would get back from the industry was, oh, he's bigger in Latin America. That's where his crowd is. And then I go to Latin America and they go, oh, he really turned into an English artist. And so we ended up like this, which is funny.
Yeah.
And think about the film, when he got thrown out of the United States because people thought he was being not loyal and disrespectful, he had to go internationally because he couldn't get work anywhere in America. Right. So it's quite interesting with international artists. And then also, and you've seen the movement raised recently with Lin-Manuel Miranda and over 207 Latin entertainers, musicians working in the business where they've stood up and they said, we're not going to put up with it anymore. We've been in this business for 50 years. We don't get our due. We don't get paid the same. We don't get treated the same. So, I think there's some of that too. But hopefully what the documentary shows is, regardless of all of that, if you look at the body of work and you look at the fact that during COVID, he's finishing a documentary, he's out producing a live stream, he's recording, and he's 75 in COVID. He just doesn't stop. And I have to say, the one great thing about working with Jose is whenever that phone rings, I sit up straight, and I always know I'm going to learn something, because the 50 years he's been in the business, he's had his own television show, 1 hour special with
Right.
NBC.
Yep.
He's had books, he's had this, he's had everything. The one thing he hasn't had is the recognition in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it's a shame and a disgrace, really, that he's not in there for one or two of his accomplishments, let alone the breadth of his accomplishments. And that's not my opinion. That's the opinion of the Santanas of the world, the Rudy Perez's of the world, the Gloria Estefans of the world. So that's not important to him, but I think it's important to us. And I think, as Frank said, you need champions. It doesn't matter who you are, you need champions that go and they push for you while you're working.
No, and I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you said, especially the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, honestly, I thought he was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm sure a lot of people think that as well. So let's start that campaign to get him in sooner than later. Yeah. And, you mentioned recognition. And I feel like with this documentary, he is going to get more recognition. And I wonder what was, sort of the approach? I know you sort of answered this briefly a little bit, Frank, but, when you finally got down to like brass tacks and, you and Helen decided, okay, we're going to make this film about your life, your career, your fans. I mean, what's the start of that conversation? And, was he open to it? And, I'm just still sort of blown away that it took this long for a documentary to be made on it.
One thing you'll find about Jose is, first of all, when you say he's open, Jose's open to anything, which is amazing. That's what I think has made his career so long, and he's willing to try anything, as is evidenced in his music styles. That there's not a style of music that Jose can't play, and I'm here to tell you that as a musician sitting here with him. He can play anything. You get him, you want him to play jazz, he's got jazz, rock, blues, funk, whatever you want, he has it. I think, was it easy to get him to do the film? Of course. I think, when you're someone like a Jose and you add on the fact that how talented he's been, but yes, and how unsung he's been, he knows it. There's not an artist out there that doesn't realize and doesn't want to be recognized, right? But there's also, as you get older, where you stand. And I think it's always been something for him to say, you know what? You'll hear him say it in the doc, why don't I have the recognition that somebody like Stevie Wonder had, or somebody like that? And it really isn't, that's not sour grapes. That's just like, yeah, you're right. Why don't you? And I think it always goes down, and Helen said it best. It's champions. You need champions around you. Mm-hmm. And just like artists are very, we're very sensitive. Okay. Helen will tell you, working with me, we're very sensitive. And just like when you have somebody that goes, you know what, Jose, a movie needs to be made on your life, and it gets you in the same way. When you have people that bring you down, it can also affect you. And I think he's had those moments in his life where he's, you listen to him talk about the anthem. He still to this day goes, I didn't mean to do anything. I don't know why I was blackballed on the radio. I don't know why this happened. I don't know why I can't do that. So I think it's easy to get an artist, and if you say to them, look, we're going to respect your story, we're going to respect your life, everything you've accomplished, we want other people to know that. When you come with that approach and that respect, and Helen said it again, the pressure, the responsibility that you have to tell that story, if they know you're handling it with kid gloves, I think, and you also have Susan, who's, God, what a story she is. His wife, right, who's been his fan club president, his manager, basically his de facto manager for how long, to convince her that, hey, we want to respect your husband. We want to respect everything that was easy. She's been doing that for his whole career. So I think Helen and I both have and by the way, he has an incredible sense of humor. You see a little bit of it in the film, but we have a respect for Jose that I think, from an insider's perspective, that even people that know his career probably don't have, because we've gotten to know him personally. And at the core of his being, he's all heart. He's just genuine. And he's one of the most honest guys you're ever going to meet, to a fault, right? he'll tell you exactly how he's feeling almost at any time, sometimes at an inopportune time, but he'll tell you, right? I mean, Helen just went through it on a couple of press junkets for the album. She could tell you those, but
Yep.
but anyway, go ahead, Helen. Yeah, I know you have more to add there for sure.
No, I think you said it all on that one. He's, I think also for Jose, including folks like Rick Girard, like Jack, who discovered him. Having those people, Rudy Perez, Santana, Gloria, having them part of the documentary, and being able to enjoy the creation of it with them and the reuniting with those folks over a 50-year period, I think was really kind of a journey for Jose, a pleasant journey to celebrate.
Yeah, for sure. You know, he's like Jose's like a box of potpourri. He really is. It's like you go, wait, even bigger artists, and you listen to Rudy talk about him today. Listen to Rick Girard after a 50-year career. There's Jack Somer describes him. The first time you see him, right, in his prime, you got to be blown away. But there's always a surprise. You're like, wait, he does that too, or he sang that, or he plays guitar that well. Wait, he plays electric? What do you mean he plays percussion? You know, all these things come up, and you're just like your brain is spinning. And I think as a musician, I don't know if any of you have ever played, but to the thought of being blind since birth,
right,
and never being able to see a lyric sheet, never being able to see a note of music or your guitar, and have all of these songs. He, as Helen said, he's an encyclopedia of knowledge on the music business. He can tell you who engineered the track that Simon and Garfunkel sang in 1966 and who did the string arrangements. And you're just like, well, how does he know that? He's never read a sleeve of a record or anything. Those are the mind-boggling things about him. You peel him back, and it's just, it's an honor. You know, even when I'm still with him and I'm still in awe. And it's really, sometimes you get to do things in your life. I think Helen will agree that, you know, maybe you don't always feel like you deserve. And I think this is one of those things that we got to do, that as much as, you know, as a journey and as a bear that it is to put something like this together, I think it's an honor.
Well, yeah, and I do want to ask, because now I'm starting to think about it. I mean, it is 2020. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but the fact that he is recording a new album, doing live streams, still being active in a pandemic, you know, I just wonder, you know, hopefully that there is a new audience out there that can discover Jose. You know, because there are a lot of people that, you know, maybe don't even know who he is, or maybe have, like you said, just have heard the Feliz Navidad, and that's it.
Yep.
You know, this man has given so much to, you know, music and the arts and poetry, you know, worldwide. I mean, it's just crazy to think that, you know, he's still recording music at 75. And I just wonder with that process, if either of you have been close to him on this new record that he's got coming out.
Oh, Helen is not only close to it, she's the one spearheading it. Helen's the CEO of the label. Helen's been the one that spearheaded all of his projects, so I'm going to let her talk about them.
Okay.
So when Frank and I finished producing the film, and I became CEO of Anthem Entertainment, which has a record label, we invited Jose to our Grammy party and invited Rick Girard, and they got together for the first time in a long time, and they turned around to me during dinner and said, "We want to make an album." And I looked at them and I went, "Okay, we're going to make an album." And so that process kicked off, and it was beautiful to see them reunite. We recorded it in Nashville. Frank was part of that production, and we released the album. It's called Behind This Guitar. There's a single of the same name. You've heard the song, one of the songs in the documentary, Behind This Guitar, and also the closing single for the documentary, I'm America, is one of his booming songs in it. And we think that with the celebration of Feliz Navidad and his new works, which have just been released this year, we think the new audiences will learn more about Jose, we did a survey and of 20-year-olds. And we asked them, have you heard of Jose Feliciano? And they all shook their head, no. And we said, okay, have you heard of Feliz Navidad? Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Would you be willing to try something from the same person that sang Feliz Navidad? Oh yes. So we think this fourth quarter with the 50th anniversary celebration, and there are a lot of plans in place for that celebration, that younger and new audiences will have an opportunity to get exposed to Jose. And we have a couple of releases next year, a couple of surprise releases, which will, you know, invite him to an even broader audience. So we kind of think like you do, Jim, that, you know, when people hear some of that work, and we recently re-recorded in Dolby Atmos
Oh, sure.
the song, which is in a documentary, Lonely Teardrops. And we had a bunch of, I went to a Dolby studio in Toronto to listen to it with about a dozen folks from within our company and industry specialists, and it brought them to tears, how amazing and how soulful his version was. And so I think as people discover his works, not just Light My Fire and California Dreamin', which was used in Quentin Tarantino's latest movie, but also treasures like Let's Find Each Other Tonight from the Fargo film.
Oh, sure, of course.
He was also a Moulin Rouge.
Yep.
I mean, every time you peel the onion, you find more and more shining little diamonds underneath it. And you could probably do 2 or 3 documentaries on Jose, because his life is so interesting. I mean, our challenge was really to get what we could in the documentary. And it also was a challenge in the context of, you know, we have over 17 original fully licensed songs. And there was one point I was really mad at Jose. I can't lie. There were many evenings from 9 to 1 in the morning that I spent trying to get license and songs cleared, because of course he would cover the Beatles, he would cover the Doors, he would cover the Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah.
So at that point I might have been like, you know, ready to kill him. But you know, there's not that many people that can cover all those artists and make his version better than the original version. But I was ready to kill him, and Frank too.
No, I mean, that's wonderful to hear that he's got so much more coming out in 2020, but also in 2021. And, you know, you kind of wrapped up my last question here, Helen, but I'll give you both a chance to answer it real quick. You know, again, we're big fans of the film here at Sound Unseen, and we're fortunate that you guys are letting us screen the film to our Minnesota audience. So thank you again. But I do want to ask, for, you know, diehard fans, longtime fans, or new Discovery fans, what do you hope people take away from the film?
I'll start with that. I think everything that we've just talked about, you know, for the last 20 or so minutes, I think if you leave the film inspired, and especially in today's world that we're in, if you leave the film inspired, and at the risk of being cliche, and you see a guy with that many, I said it earlier, could have so many excuses to just lay down and go, all right, not for me. I wasn't in the cards. When you see a guy like that, and by the way, I don't even talk about just, you know, he's had asthma most of his life. Like it seems inconsequential to most people, but as a singer, those are things that you just go, okay, I guess I have to find something else to do. You know, he's just overcome so much. And at the end of the film, if you leave going, wow, like, yes, appreciate his career. Yes, appreciate the music. All of that is great. But really just leaving with a feel good saying, man, I can do anything. You know, if he can do that and get to the level he got to, what's my excuse? There are no excuses. I can do anything. Because he had no, like Helen said, I'll use that word again, no champions on his corner most of the time other than his family. all of these things kind of going and stacked against him. Right up from the beginning, he got given a nylon guitar, and he was into the blues.
Yeah.
You're just like, well, what if he had been given a steel string? He would have been playing different, but he made it his signature. He could have easily said, well, wait, I can't play that music on this, and you shouldn't, right? But there you go. So I think you're inspired when you leave. That's what my personal, I'm sure Helen agrees and probably has other things, but inspiration for me.
Yeah, I think Jose is all about inspiration. I think that's what Jose said to us at the beginning. He'd like his story told, because if it could inspire one person, to do great, that would be good. For me, I think you said it at the beginning, Jim, he really is a hero of sorts. He's paved the way for so many great artists that become before him and after him. And I think that story needs to be told in America. And I think it is a very inspiring story. And I feel just the responsibility to make sure that story is told, because if we don't, think about the world we're living in now, where we're talking about how do we create opportunities, whether it's for people of color, people with disabilities, whatever. I feel you have to take what you have. And here we have someone who people can be inspired by and look up to. And, I think there's a lot of learnings from that for all of us, and
Sure.
and he's still going, and he's going strong, and he's a handful. He's a handful. I want to say one thing that, I learned in this process, and that is, and still experience to this day, that everything we do with Jose, and Frank is working me through right now on a celebratory live stream for Feliz Navidad on December 20th. If anybody's interested, dial in at 7:00. It'll be announced, soon. And it's part of the celebration of the 50th anniversary of Feliz Navidad. But everything we do with Jose, it takes double the work. Everywhere we go, there's someone that is either going to assist them to the stage or help them. If we're doing recording, we take the material. It's got to be brailled. He has to learn it in Braille. Then he does it. Then we've been producing in English and in Spanish. I don't think people have a true appreciation of how difficult that 50-year journey has been times 2. And yet he never complains. I complain. Even yesterday I was complaining, not only do I have to do stuff in English and Spanish, but I can't really read Spanish. And Frank laughs at my pronunciation all the time. And if it weren't for Frank, we wouldn't have the songs pronounced properly in the documentary. But that's a genetic disease. That's a disease of the Irish. I'm sorry. But anyhow, but so I hope people get a little bit of understanding, even though we didn't stop to illustrate any of that in the documentary, of just how truly remarkable it is that he accomplished so much in that period of time. And still is probably one of the most productive artists I have on my roster at 75.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm not going to sign any young artists like that again.
And I'll add to what Helen just said. The one thing that he dislikes, he doesn't want you to ever use, whether it be marketing or what, is the fact that he's blind. He never wants to lean on it, and neither does his wife. And think about it. Think about that. That's not even you never even talk about it. You don't even talk about it. You don't even mention it. And I think that's a testament to somebody who just says, you know what? No excuses.
Well, I'm going to talk about it because you guys already watched the film. In addition to all of that, there's that great line where he says, I knew I was good looking. I knew I was this. I knew I was that. And he's blind, but he was great looking.
Yeah.
He's a rock star.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. He did have that going for him.
He knew it.
Yep.
Well, that's all the time we have here, but I do want to thank you both so much for participating in Sound Unseen in this, Q&A in these strange times that we're living in. But yeah, thank you so much, Frank. Thank you, Helen. Frank Licari, or I goofed that up. Frank
let the Irish person help you. Frank Licari.
Frank Licari, Helen Murphy, directors of José Feliciano, behind this guitar. And yes, please share that link with us at Sound Unseen, and we will help promote the 50th anniversary celebration of Feliz Navidad this December.
Great.
Well, we hope you would join us, Jim, and thank you for
Yes.
having us at the festival, and thank you for being a champion of Jose and recognizing, right off the bat, his contribution. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you both.